2012 in many ways was a lost year for the New Orleans Saints. Quarterback Drew Brees has said it's a new beginning for everyone, but as that new beginning unfolds, who'll return, who won't, who will they keep via the franchise tag, who will they sign, what's going on with this franchise that would very much love to get back to the top of the mountain 3 years after making it to the Super Bowl. Joining us now to get us up to speed on where things stand with one of the most talked about franchises in the NFL. It's Larry Holder of the New Orleans Times-Picayune, and it's time to talk Saints. Larry, let's start with the news of the day that really prompted us to book you for this show. The idea that the Saints want to keep Jonathan Vilma and Will Smith, even though they're switching from a 3-4 defense. These guys have big cap numbers. Is this real? Do they really want them back, or is this just the first step toward a divorce for both guys from the team?
I think it's hard to tell if they really want these two guys back or not. I mean, it's obviously going to depend on how much they're willing or not willing to play for. I mean, you just look at the cap numbers, and they're number 1 and 1A of guys you would want to either really chop salary or unload altogether. I mean, Will Smith, his base salary is going to be $9 million. His cap number is around $14.5 million. Jonathan Vilma, his base salary number is $4.6 million, and his is around $8 million salary cap number. So they're owed guaranteed money, which is probably why, hey, look, if we're going to have to pay these guys anyway, let's see how far down we can get to just the guaranteed money and move forward. But last week, and it was actually on Mardi Gras Day, and half of New Orleans probably wasn't paying attention. I may have been the only one. But when Sean Payton went and did an interview on Sirius XM NFL Radio and said there's a role for Jonathan Vilma on this team, and I think a lot of people wondered if that would be the case. Now, is that just lip service? I think it remains to be seen, because a lot of people don't feel like Jonathan Vilma's a 3-4 linebacker, and I feel like last time I came on, we talked about this. I felt like maybe Will Smith might have a better chance in fitting in with a 3-4 defense maybe than with a Jonathan Vilma. But who knows? They're going to have to chop a ton of salary off of where they are. And they've already started chopping salary, not necessarily chopping it, but chopping it for this year, restructuring Curtis Lawson's contract. He didn't lose any money, but they just shifted it around. So, but these two aren't the only ones they're going to be talking to, but they're definitely the two prime candidates that everyone's been pointing to since the season ended.
And unlike Curtis Lofton, these guys won't be shifting money around and doing what's known as a simple restructuring. This is take less money or take a hike. Is there any sense of the willingness or lack thereof that Will Smith or Jonathan Vilma may have to taking that pay cut? A lot of it, I assume, has to deal with what's behind door number 2, what some other team would want to pay them, but also how badly they want to remain with the Saints.
Yeah, I definitely think that's part of it. And I think both of them understand. I mean, they've been in the league long enough. I think they get it. This is actually, they restructured both of their contracts last year as well. They restructured Will Smith to help Drew Brees fit in. Jonathan Vilma, they shifted his money around also so that if he were suspended because of the bounty scandal, that he would receive money and not be totally cut off from his funds that he was due. But I think both of them realize that they're going to have to take a cut. I mean, that the writing's on the wall, and so we'll see how far they're willing to go. And if not, you're moving on to a 3-4 defense, and you don't even know if Vilma's a real fit, and you don't even know if Will Smith's a real fit. So it's I know the Saints would like to keep these guys, but do they even really fit? I don't even know if we know that.
And, other names that jump off the page, when you look at least the salary commitments for 2013, guys like Broderick Bunkley at $3.7 million. You've got Roman Harper sticking out like a sore thumb at $5.25 million. What other names jump out at you as guys who could be candidates to either take less money or not be with the team?
I think those two guys, you're spot on. I feel like they're going to try to hang on to Bunkley. Maybe that he's a run stopper, kind of a defensive tackle, that they try to hang on to him, but they might ask him and take less. You got to look at David Hawthorne, if you ask me. He is someone who they signed, and they signed it. It was cap friendly, his contract last year, and this year not as cap friendly, and so maybe they look to do something with him, and he's kind of underplayed when he came in last year. People thought he'd be a starter, injuries, and kind of sidelined him from the start, and yet they signed him to a long-term contract. Also, just somebody I look at because none of his money is really guaranteed is a Pierre Thomas, and if you're going to look to try to save money here, there, and everywhere else, you're trying to look everywhere, and he has a base at 2.1, and when you're so far over the cap like the Saints are probably now around 16 mil rather than 20 than they were to start this thing. You got to start chopping everywhere, and it wouldn't surprise me if they even went to bigger name guys who they just signed. I mean, what if you go to Marcus Colson? What if you go to Ben Grubbs? I mean, they got high salaries, and maybe you can shift it around and make it work this year. And so I think they're looking anywhere and everywhere because Mickey Loomis, we had a chance to catch up with him in depth earlier this off season, and he basically said, look, this isn't going to be easy. It's not impossible, but you're going to have to look everywhere and anywhere to try to get under the cap and then try to build this team back, especially when you're shifting defenses, going to a completely new defense from Steve Spagnuolo or Rob Ryan.
And the biggest name of them all, as far as the players go in New Orleans, quarterback Drew Brees. He's in the second year of that mammoth contract that pays out $61 million over 3 years. He's got a cap number of $17 million this year, base salary of just under $10 million. Any talk about some shifting, a little robbing Peter to pay Paul to drive his cap number down this year?
That topic came up with him during the season, or maybe towards the latter part, maybe the final week of the season, and that topic was brought up. And he didn't sound too keen on wanting to do that. I don't think he's gonna. The Saints would ever ask him to take a pay cut. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But shifting the money, if you got, why not approach him? I don't think he's been approached yet, but if he's going to be paid all this money, I mean, what does it really matter for someone like him who's received this huge, gigantic contract when he receives the money? I mean, it's not like he's living in a poorhouse or anything. So, but if you want to help his team, and he's the oldest player on the team now, and so his window, you talk about windows, his isn't closing, but he's not getting any younger. And if you want to compete for the next few years, you got to help out. I mean, other players have helped him out to get under contract. Maybe he can do the same, but I'm not certain that that's going to happen with him.
And here's the problem if you restructure Drew Brees' contract. The common tactic is you take that base salary, you shrink it down to the minimum, and you treat the rest of it as guaranteed payment. That keeps some of it in the current year, pushes the rest of it into future years. You start looking at the cap numbers down the road for Drew Brees. He's already got, Larry, a $26.4 million cap number in 2015, and that tells me the Saints believe that come 2015 the cap is going to spike. Do you get the sense that the Saints do believe that when these new TV deals kick in, the cap's going to go up? Because a lot of people, including people in the union, don't believe that's going to happen.
Well, I think when they made the deal, that's probably what they were looking at. And I know a lot of people around the league probably felt the same way. But to become a winner now, that's what they felt like they've had to do. And you see that number and you're like, wow. I mean, that's only 2 years down the road. And then Drew Brees, he'll be 36 probably when he'll be playing under that contract. So that year of the contract. And but it's something that the Saints have kind of felt they've had to do. They've done it a lot as far as restructuring, moving money around to keep this team a competitive, major competitive team in the NFL. And they feel like they're probably going to still have to do that and keep doing it until really Drew Brees probably leaves, and then you start over again. So it's, but yeah, I mean it's hairy. I mean there's no doubt. Mickey Loomis is definitely known for shifting money and being a salary cap type of general manager and working the cap and knowing the ins and outs. But everything you're saying, I mean, is right. I mean, they have their work cut out for them, not just this year, but next year. You think about even Jimmy Graham. You want to sign him to a long-term deal. How do you do that? You can't even think about doing that right now, even though a guy in this same draft class got a huge deal, Rob Gronkowski. And so it's definitely some difficult times maneuvering money-wise with this team.
Big name who's not under contract, Jermon Bushrod, the left tackle. Franchise tag a possibility, or are the Saints just not in position to commit $10 million to one player?
I don't think they want to do that. I don't think even they had that chance to do it even last year with an all-pro type of guy, Carl Nicks, and he ended up not being franchise tagged, and he left and went to Tampa Bay. I don't think they're going to commit that to him at all because I don't think the market is out there. I think they're going to and people think he's maybe looking for elite money, and I don't think he is. I mean, I've had enough conversations with him. He's basically looking for a fair deal for him. And to me, I don't know what's fair, $7 million a year, and so I think the Saints know that. And I mean, it all comes back to if you give him that, you're giving him a pay raise. Then where do you have to go find that money from somewhere else? So I don't think they're in a position to even think about that. The only guy, and I watched your first segment, the only guy they probably would have thought about would have been Thomas Morstead, the punter, but he extended his contract last offseason, well, during training camp in 2012. But to me, he would have been, and at that time, Morstead thought he might be tagged just because that's kind of the growing trend, again, like you talked about earlier. So, but I don't see, Bushrod would be the only guy you would even think about, but I don't even think that they're going to be going there, and I don't think he anticipates that the Saints will go there either.
Last one for you, and it deals with another growing trend, I suppose. Rob Ryan not having jobs for very long. He was 2 years in Dallas, 2 minutes in St. Louis. What was the end result of that weird report that surfaced last weekend, Larry, about Rob Ryan not being allowed to talk to the media without some sort of a papal dispensation from the Saints organization? I didn't mean that to be a pun, but I guess it is.
Yeah, I don't know if I put much stock into that, and I know Greg Benson, the PR guy, came out and kind of rebunked it, rebuked that real quick, and so I don't know. I think what they would like to do is maybe limit him, but I mean he's got to talk every week during the season, and I don't think they're going to do that. I think here's the thing: if Rob Ryan wants to talk to the media, I think he has a good understanding of that they are not looking for another Greg Williams type of guy, even though he is a brash guy. He likes to talk to the media, and so I don't really put a ton of stock in that, but who knows? Maybe they are trying to control him, but I don't really put a ton of stock into what was said there.
A little surprising they went for the brash guy, given the experience with Greg Williams, but if you're going to be undermanned on the field because of the salary cap, you may as well coach up the guys you have as best you can. Well, Larry, thanks again for coming on short notice. I've got a feeling we'll be talking more about the Saints as this offseason unfolds, and we look forward to talking to you down the road.
Hey, you got it, Mike. Anytime.
All right, that's Larry Holder, New Orleans Times Picayune.